All right, so we're going to do the block 3 isometric drawing next. So I'm going to click here, block 3 uh, isometric is our drawing, hyphen, again, your first initial and your last name. We want to make sure, again, the template that we're using is the imperial template, not the metric template. Hit create so that we can get in here and set this. Now again, remember, notice if I am going down here, if I look there in my lower right hand screen, you'll see that my units right now are engineering, so I gotta change my drawing settings. So I go to that gear. Right now preferences should be light, tracking should be turned off, object snap we're just going to have endpoint on for right now, so turn on endpoint. Units is the most important part here. We're going to change those to decimal, and in terms of our precision, we're going to go to 3-place precision on our linear mode units there. Navigation should be standard, and we click done, and we're good. All right, we still have some other things to do. We got to click over here on our properties, make sure that our line type is selected by layer instead of the auto default of continuous, and let's create our layers. So I'm going to go to layers. So, and I will create the new layer here. This is going to be my construction line. So I want my construction lines to be red, and I'll left click back on here again. So notice that's continuous. My next layer will be my hidden lines. So I'm going to type in hidden line, and that's going to be green. So we'll make those green, and then I come back and I left click back on the hidden line. Notice that makes it active over here. So now I can change the hidden line layer to hidden as well. And of course, my last layer that I'm putting in is my center line. So type in center line. I'm going to make that red as well. Notice how it jumps up alphabetically ahead of that. So I'll right click there again so that I can make that active, change that to center, and now I'm good to go. So I'm going to go back and activate my object line layer to draw on. Notice I'm still way out here in space, so I can kind of just zoom in. So as I get closer and closer to it, so just to make sure that you get where you need to be. So now we're going to do the isometric drawing here of block 3. Let's just take a minute and look here at our drawing again. So that's the U-shaped drawing, and we do know our dimensions. So we're going to start with some construction lines that are going to be 6 by 3 by 1.5 as far as our depth. And we're going to kind of block this in and then use some construction lines and what we know as far as what we know as a real line first, and then do some other construction geometry too. So let me go ahead. I'll make my construction line active. And I'm going to first start with the height. Now, my first line point here is going to be at 0, 0. So I enter that in, and this is going to be a 3-inch line. Now look how far out I am here. So I'm just going to kind of come in at 90 degrees. So make sure. So I'm going to just type in with my keyboard 3. I'm going to tab over just to make sure that that's at 90. Hit enter. So I'll right click and confirm because I'm zoomed out. So let me do a zoom all to get in there. Nope, I hit the shift key instead of the enter. So make sure zoom, enter, all, enter. So it makes a difference of which key you enter in there. So all right. So now I can go back to my line now here. So, and this is my endpoint that I'm picking up on my 3-inch line. Now I need some other tools to help me with this, because notice if I come down here now and I turn on my snaps, I'm going to use my endpoint. So that's the only one that I want, and it's turned on. But there's another snap that I can use that will help me with this, and that's my polar snap. So I'm going to turn polar snap on to 30. So, and make that active so I use it. Now notice when I do that, since we know that 30 degrees is what makes our isometric, notice how it automatically kind of snaps in place. So I'm just, all I need now is to kind of enter, and it will help me to draw this real quick. So I can just go type in 6 and hit the enter button on my keyboard, drop the line. So I just kind of move down and I hit 3, hit the enter, make sure I'm at 90 degrees. Now I can come over here and I'll left click now with that to place that, and I'm continuing to draw. 1.5 on my keyboard, I'm snapped in at 150, which is where it is, so I'll hit enter. Now I move my mouse up so it's 90 degrees. This is going to be 3-inch line, and hit enter. So that's just a keystroke. Come over here and connect that. Notice it's 1.5. So I'll right click confirm to get out. So now I've got the front surface here, and I've got my side surface here. So I'm going to come back now. Let me repeat the last command. That was a right click repeat, pick up here. I set the snap at 30. I just type in 6 inches because that's the length of my block, and come here at 1.5, and we'll go ahead and confirm that. Now I'm going to do something a little different here at this point. So I'm going to talk about where these hidden lines come in. So let's go ahead. We know I'm going to make my hidden line active. So, and I'm going to draw hidden lines because we know there's a back corner to this as well. We might not know exactly where it comes in at, but knowing where that is going to kind of help us solve some of these problems. So let me go ahead and I'll select my line tool. I'm going to come in here, click on that. Now, we know that that is going to be 3 inches down at 90 degrees. So I'll hit 3 and down. We know it's going to come right over here and connect to there. So I'll go ahead and I'll right click confirm to get out, and then I'll right click repeat that line command, because I also know I need a line from here that comes over, and notice that comes in at 6 inches at 150. So there we go. I'll right click confirm. So now I see that block. So and I've got the hidden lines that are behind it, and all the red lines that are kind of used for construction are my object lines. But we are also here going, and this is a U shape. So I don't really know exactly where some of these fall in place yet, but I do know where this line comes at, because that's 1.5 up from the bottom, and that's kind of my midpoint. So let me come back here now to here. I'm going to make sure that my midpoint is selected. Go back to my construction lines, activate that layer. So now I go into my line tool, and I know that I have a midpoint here and a midpoint here that I'm going to click on. Now, notice the funny thing that happens when we're doing this. Notice how that line ends up being directly over, my midpoint line here ends up being directly over that bottom back corner edge there of this block. And that's just the way the math works when we rotate this at 30 degrees. But again, this is kind of an optical illusion here. If you look at it one way, it looks like it's coming out to you where the green lines are coming out first. You turn around and look at it differently, then it looks like this end's coming out. So this is one of those optical delusions. I like to call it an optical delusion, as far as which way actually is coming out of the screen. So be careful when you're looking at these. So this is where you got to train your brain on how to look at it. So I'm going to come in now. I'm going to go back to my object line, and I'm going to object line layer, and I'm going to start to place object lines where I know they definitely occur at. And one place I know for sure they're at is, of course, this side view. So I know that these come in right here. So I'll just go ahead and make those like this, get those in place. Okay, now right click confirm. I'm going to go back into my right click and repeat the last command, which was my draw line. And I also know that I've got these lines. I know that those lines are true lines coming in. So, but I don't really know just yet where the rest of this comes in. That's where I got to go back and I got to look at and read my print. So now I do know that this is going to go 1.5 inches over from there, and it's going to go 1.5 inches over from there. So I can use that information. Let me go back to my drawing now. So, and I can use that information to draw these lines. So I'm going to come here, and I know from my face and that drawing, that orthographic drawing, I know now that this line is going to be 1.5. I'll hit enter. And coming over at 150 degrees, this is also going to be back to my depth of 1.5. Enter, and then this comes off and finishes up there. So right click confirm to get out. So that's part of the top view. The same thing's going to happen up here. So let me right click, repeat that last command, and I'll click here. We're going 1.5. So, okay. And it's going to go back at 1.5. And last will be up here. So right click and confirm. So that lets me know a little bit more here what's going on. Now, I know then that I'm going to drop a line that's going to come from here down to that midpoint line, and the same thing here as well. So I'll go ahead and repeat my last command. Let's get this going first. Right there. Be careful of your snaps. So make sure you're 1.5 by 90 degrees. Now notice it's picking up a midpoint. And you're going to probably ask yourself, well, that doesn't look like the midpoint line. Well, you're right. It's the midpoint line on that back hidden line that we're picking up on there. So, all right. So I don't know here. Well, I do, because notice we've got a line coming right to there. So I can click on that and click on that. Right click confirm to get out of it. So, and let me see if I'm done now. So turn my construction lines off. Turn my hidden line layer off. Well, we're almost there, but not quite. So something's still missing. So we're missing part of the U here. So let's turn these back on again. With your, we'll just turn on these construction lines for right now. So I don't want these to kind of confuse us for the moment. So we'll turn that off and go back into your construction line layer. So we need to kind of use this to figure out where some points are. So, all right. So, well, if I drop down, so I'm going to go into my line, and I know that I should have something going right here, dropping down some distance this way. So, well, we know that that distance from the print comes to the center, so this line should also be 1.5, okay? And it's going to go back to this corner right here, 1.5. Right click and confirm out of that. Now notice, just because of where numbers work, how things line up here, this also comes back that far. So I'm going to go in now that I kind of know where these are at. Let me go back to my object lines here, and this create. So I'm going to have this come in from here to there, and from there over to here for that object. Confirm out. And then I also have this line going from here back. Let me right click, repeat that line command. On. There we go. All right. And confirm. All right, good. So you know where you're at here with this. Let's turn off our construction lines and let's turn the hidden lines back on. Okay, so we're still missing a couple of hidden lines that I want to make sure that we get put in here too. And that's the hidden lines that would be from behind right here. So let's go back to our hidden line layer. So, and we create the line drawing tool. Now we know that from this point over, that's going to be 1.5 at 150 degrees. Notice where it just happens to fall in place at. And of course, this one then is going to go back up to here. So we'll right click confirm. So, and that's what our hidden lines will look like. So you're seeing every surface there as you go. So I'm going to make my object line layer active so I can turn my hidden line on and off, and you can kind of see what this will look like either with your hidden line or without. So last thing that we do is I'm going to type in Z for zoom and hit enter. I'll type in E for extent and hit enter so I can bring that in more centralized to the print. And now click the save button, and this isometric drawing is now complete.